The Nightmare Gauntlet is one of the highlights of the spring update, and I wanted to make an honest review on it. I think the Nightmare Gauntlet is like super unique. There's like a lot of good things to say about it. There's also some things that kind of flopped in my opinion. There's a lot to talk about. Let's get right into it. For one, I just wanted to talk about one thing that I think makes this gauntlet feel extremely special. The amount of work that was put into the graphics on this gauntlet are actually mind-boggling. I don't think enough people are talking about it. I don't think I've ever seen such good graphical work come out of Wizard101 before. Even in newer worlds like Novus, I don't really think you get to see how good they are at doing stuff like this. Like, yeah, Novus has like a very cool skyline in my opinion, and the graphics are pretty decent. Like, the textures are cool, but I honestly think just because it's a whole world that they have to, like, you know, make, I just don't think that it looks as good and polished as what it looks like in the gauntlet. They have crazy attention to detail. I feel like even small little things, like when you're running through the swamp, you go a little slower. I think little features like that just make for an ambiance that honestly I feel like it's unforgettable. I really recommend running this gauntlet even if you do not need the gear. I feel like I could never say this about a gauntlet before. The gear, it's also extremely powerful. I feel like this is one of the most like relevant gear additions we've had since Novus came out and since Raids came out. Honestly, the reason it feels like that is because this is like a counterpart to the Aeon gear in general. I don't know if this is like a conscious choice or not, but King's Isle has started doing some very substantial things with gauntlet gear. If you guys don't know, every year, every time a new world comes around, you know, like, and there's a new level, there are multiple gear templates that you will have access to as the year goes on. And the main variations in these gear templates are how they vary in terms of offense, defense, and utility. And I could get into the weeds and the details and all of that, but basically, right, if something is high on damage, then it can only be mid in utility and bad in defense, or mid in defense and bad in utility. That's probably the best way to explain it. And basically, the Mire gear is continuing a pattern that they've done twice now, the last one being Highland gear, where the gear is high in defense, doesn't sell off offense so much, and is lowest in utility. And I think trading off that, you know, utility for just a little bit of offense makes this gear extremely valid. Like, it's super viable, super well-rounded. If you just want like one piece of the Mire gear, you'll probably fill in any defensive holes that you have with your normal gear, but the specific way it balances out that offense and utility makes that HP and resist really pop out. And this is the second time they've done it, meaning I think they're making this gear, this template of the gear, they're making it something you access through gauntlets if you really want to, because it's not required, but it's really good to have. It simply trades a little offense for defense, but because neither of them give shad rating, they're pretty equivalent otherwise. And little changes to gear templates like this are really interesting because you don't have to run full Aeon gear or full Nightmare gear. In fact, you probably shouldn't. But when you have little variations like this, it adds to the gear diversity in the game, so I think they did a good job with the gear balancing as well. But let's talk about where I think so many of the good things about this gauntlet get dragged down a little bit. One, I gotta be honest, I feel like the length of the gauntlet is actually pretty short for something that actually looks so beautiful, and I'm super conflicted about wanting a longer gauntlet. A primary reason for the gauntlet existing to begin with is because people want this gear without opening up a bunch of packs, right? Like, gear like this, you're gonna want it. It's like literally nothing. But to me, I feel like they should do more with gauntlets in general as time goes on. I feel like it should follow a model that's closer to what they used to do, which was every, like, you know, year between updates, between world updates, they would like create a dungeon for everyone to do. Like, we're talking like Waterworks, Tartarus, Tower of Helephant, all of that. Now, maybe the vision with gauntlets is that they're not supposed to be like that at all, but if you're gonna put this much work into a gauntlet and have this much competitive gear come out of a gauntlet, I do think it should feel a little longer so that you actually remember it as something. Now, keep in mind, in my opinion, if they were to make gauntlets longer, they should give you higher drop rates and more control over the drops that you get. They need something added on. Like, I'm not just saying make it longer and keep everything else about it the same, because I know some people are gonna like be like, no, that's terrible. I just think it's a missed opportunity to have pacing like this on a gauntlet, which is why I'm including that in this review. I think gauntlets are cool because it is very easy for King's Outlet to monetize them, but it's also fairly easy for a player to access them without paying money. It's a weird middle ground that I think if they did more, you know, into like just making maybe making the pacing a little bit better, it could be much better than what it already is. They could flesh out characters, they could add more mobs that are unique. I mean, again, this is just, I don't know how much they can do in one update, but I would love to see them do that and go in that direction with the gauntlet, because I can't imagine that the pack and the gauntlet together weren't successful this time around. But if they were to make it longer, what they're doing at the end of the dungeon absolutely needs to be rectified. If you guys don't know, there's a major problem with the gauntlet right now, and it's the fact that at the end, if you go like through the entire gauntlet, you have access to a crafting recipe vendor, and you can actually make specific gear from the gauntlet. And it's all free to play technically if you can just find someone to run the gauntlet with. While that part is cool, in order to even unlock a recipe, you need to do the gauntlet 50 times. Now, if that's the direction that they're going with stuff, then obviously they shouldn't make the gauntlet longer, but I feel like this is the part that actually ruins this update. They tacked on a level of inconvenience that I don't think anybody is gonna like look at it and be like, oh, that's fine, I'll do it 50 times and get the gear. The worst part about it is that if you actually do the dungeon 50 times successfully, which I would argue takes like 6 to 7 hours, if you are to do that, the badge that lets you unlock the recipes at the end is bugged, so you don't even have access anyway. I think that's a major oversight. I think if you're gonna add a new feature where you have recipes that are badge locked and the badge is that crazy to get, for that badge to also not even unlock the recipe, that's a little crazy. I've heard that the drop rates are actually pretty low, so a lot of people were doing the dungeon 50 times just to be able to craft the recipes with just other reagents. So that's a big issue, which I not only hope they resolve, but if someone actually did the dungeon 50 times, I hope there's compensation. Nothing crazy, but maybe like enough pixels and polygons for them to like craft one of those things for free, something even that small. But why not? Because a lot of people probably lost sleep over trying to get this dungeon done fast because they wanted to get the gear for free, and now they can't. It's kind of ridiculous. Overall, I'm really having fun with the gear. I think it actually slows down PvP as a meta just enough for it to still be kind of exciting, but not like crazy. And it also gives players that, you know, want to go about PvE in a different way, as maybe of a more of a tank role. It gives them something that they can farm and actually have a lot of fun with. The dialogue, music, ambiance, all of that's done super, super well. I just think the rollout in terms of the crafting recipes and their requirements, as well as maybe just the length of the gauntlet itself, are my personal issues with it. Overall, I still think this is one of the best gauntlets that they've put out. I still recommend running it. I look forward to reading y'all's comments and y'all's experience with this gauntlet. I think this gear and the actual like quality of the gauntlet, it has a lot of people's feelings running high, and I'd love to hear what y'all have to say about it. What do you guys think about the gauntlet, the crafting recipes, the rollout, all of it? Let me know in the comments. If somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. I'll see y'all soon. Stay awesome, y'all. And yeah.